So let's have a conversation. Next week, you're probably starting university or college. And I wanted to make this video so that you can watch it before the weekend, before you go to your first lecture. Because I think this is going to be vitally important to you absolutely crushing the semester and future semesters if this is your first year. Let's get into it. Uni or college, depends where you are, if you're in the States or if you're in Canada or wherever else in the world, is an amazing time in any young person's life. It's easy to forget during those booze rampages, those parties, and those bong tokes exactly why you are there. And so that's the first step. And so first, ask yourself, why am I in university? Do I want to do that because I want to make my parents proud? Maybe I'm actually studying something that I really enjoy. Maybe it's to get you a job that you want. Maybe you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, and that requires at least an undergraduate degree before master's. Maybe you want to be an academic. First, realize why you're going. The second thing I want you to do is take this mindset with you as you go into university. Is to think about anything that you spend money on, I want you to work your hardest to absolutely kill. So make it your priority, since you're spending lots of money to go to university or college, to get the best grades. Because that's the only measurement of kind of what comes out of university. You will meet a lot of cool people, and all the social aspects of it will be probably just as important, if not more important. But while you're there, you're playing their game. You're playing the university's game, and that's GPA. And I want you to destroy it. I want you to get 4.0s. It's not that difficult if you start in the right position. So I don't care if you got into uni by the skin of your teeth, okay? If you got in there and you want to do good, or you're just doing it just to kill some time before you decide to take a gap year or quit in general. But if you're somebody who is actually going there and actually wants to succeed and actually wants to do well, then you can do well, and it pays to actually know how to do that from the get-go. So take your sky-high motivation at the beginning of the semester, take your pencil crayons, your brand new notebooks, your new MacBook, and join me on this video on how to absolutely destroy the first week of lectures. So let's start with the visualization. It's the first day of classes. You're pretty pumped, as you usually are, because you just had a long summer and you did a lot of fun things, but you're ready to get back to business and you're ready to get into some sort of routine. So the first thing, I do not want you leaving the house without looking good. I want you to be freshly showered. I want you to smell good. Brush your teeth. Hopefully you've been taking care of yourself up to this point so that you feel a little bit more confident in your own body and yourself, because you're entering a new area of your life where, everybody is going to university to impress each other. And that's what you want to do. You want to impress people. You want to impress the profs. You want to impress the cute girl in your class. You want to impress everybody. You want to make new friends. And so to do this, you want to show your best self. Make that good first impression, that great first impression. So brush your teeth, shower, smell good, dress nice, have a sick fit that you have that gives you confidence and makes you stand a little bit taller, that makes you look somebody in the eye when you talk to them, that makes you smile when you walk by somebody. Doesn't matter. The hottest girl, the janitor, doesn't matter. You're going to have this confidence that is going to radiate off you. That's how I want you to leave your house. So don't even think about leaving your house if you're going to look like garbage. It's okay if you take an extra 5 minutes. So dress well, stand tall, smile, and be ready to have a lot of conversation. So on to the actual video. The first thing that I want you to do is to come to class early. I was notoriously late in my first 2 semesters, and that's because I'm always notoriously late. I always was like that. But as I kind of went through university and learned more and understood that being late and being fashionably late is not cool when you miss the first bit of a lecture and there happens to be some kind of pop quiz at it and you missed it, and then your GPA plummets and you don't get into the place you want to go because your GPA sucks, and it's hard to ask for forgiveness when you're late every time there's some pop quiz before class starts. So the reason I want you to come early is so that you can scope out the area. Scope out who is going to be in class. Now your class might be before another lecture, so it'll be just a group of young people your age of all different shapes and sizes of brains. These are the smartest other high schools being here, and they're nervous. Of course they're nervous. I want you to survey the area and also try and start a conversation. Look for people that look interesting to you. If you watched the video before, where I talked about the 3 friends that I want you to make. And so if you see someone that looks athletic, somebody that looks like they might have something in common with you, maybe you guys dress the same, maybe they hold themselves well and they're confident, or maybe it's just somebody you find attractive, I want you to scout them out. I'm not telling you to stalk people, I'm just telling you to scout them out. Keep an eye, see who's who, what's what, who's getting attention, what can you do to get also some attention. So after you've done that, if you're a boss, you'll just have a conversation with that person right outside the class and then basically solidify that you have a seat during class. But if you don't, and that's totally fine, you're there early, you're not gonna miss class. First classes are very important. You go over the outline. It's basically a free class to just mingle and see who's there. So after the doors open, everyone can go into the lecture. I want you to walk into the lecture hall, and it's gonna be huge because first year classes are always packed. It's gonna be hundreds of people, and this is the university's way of packing as many people in, getting as much money as they can from these first year university kids, and then weaning them off and then seeing who's actually gonna try hard enough to stick through and pay them more money. And so when you walk into that class, I want you to stand tall. I want you to walk and talk like you own the place. I want you to smile, and I don't know, you don't have to point at people like you know them because you probably don't know anyone since the first day of class. So just walk and talk and smile and just like be proud of yourself, first of all, for getting into university. And maybe you're not the smartest person, but at least fake it like you are. And then as soon as you get into that class, I want you to walk to the front of the class. You don't gotta be front row. Well, maybe the first 3-4 rows, especially in a big 100-200 person lecture hall, you want to be close because you kind of want to show that you're in it to win it. And honestly, this leads into a few more steps that I think are very important. And so the next step is sit next to somebody you find attractive. I did this pretty much every class, and I would sit next to, I'd have friends in classes, and even then I would just if I saw a cute girl that was in the first 3 rows, and she didn't have anyone next to him, I would sit next to him. And that would just be or how I would start the conversation would be hey, is anybody sitting here? And if it's the first day classes, there's no way there's somebody sitting there. Some people have friends before, a lot of people don't. And most people aren't rude, and you can just sit next to somebody. It's hey, I'm gonna sit here. Start some small talk. Go from there. There you go. You've already solidified some sort of friend, or at least a seat in class in a good area. So this is what I call greasing the wheels. So you basically go up to this person and you say, hey, we're in the same class, whatever. Start some small talk. Doesn't matter. You don't have to imagine your entire life with this person, but try and make a friend and try and be fun and funny and talk about whatever. Talk about your major or whatever is going on. The point is to warm up and to actually kind of get your confidence going a little bit. The next thing I want you to do after you sat in the class and you pulled your brand new MacBook out that's going to make you 10 times smarter than you thought it would, whatever. I want you to look for the prof. And this will be very easy. You look at the prof and they're probably going to be at the front of the lecture hall. They might be talking to some keener students, but they're also not hard to miss because not only are they at the front, they also look like a huge nerd most of the time. Some profs are really cool, but I think that happens in later on years where it's a little bit more laid back. But the first year prof is usually very noticeable. And so when you see that prof, and if there's time, I need you to pull off an incredibly courageous stunt and go introduce yourself to the professor. If you are like every other student and check rate my prof before you even signed up for a class, then you can say, hey, whatever, Mr. Dixon, my name is Jamal, and I think I'm very excited to be in your class, and I just wanted to, get a name to the face because these guys see 200, 300 people every lecture, and if you don't stand out now, it's going to be a lot harder to introduce yourself later. This is one of the most important parts about university, and that is building a relationship and a good relationship with your professor, because this professor can save your ass when you are feeling kind of overwhelmed with a bunch of stuff. You're going to be in 5 other classes likely, or 4 other classes, and they're all going to compile and overlap, and you're going to have tons of assignments. And this is going to be so important because you can actually ask for extensions. You can ask for help, and they'll be looking forward to answering your questions. So this is what you got to do. You got to go and introduce yourself, ideally before class, and then you go back, sit down, and then you continue the conversation with your new study partner, basically. And once you do that, you have done the 2 most important things that you're going to do basically the entire semester to set yourself up for good grades and being kind of a good conversationalist and being kind of just fun and to be around. And people recognize confidence. People recognize that you get up, you walk to the front of the class, and you talk to the professor. You want to act and talk in a big way where you're laughing at their jokes. They might be funny, they might not be funny, but you're being warm and you're smiling, and people recognize that, and people see that, and people like confident people. So if you want to appear a little bit more attractive, be confident in yourself. Go introduce yourself. Go back to your neighbor and just start a conversation again and just be fun. The next thing to do once classes are already started, everybody's sitting down and fidgeting and doing all this classic 18 to 19-year-old stuff where you think you're being smart, writing into your notebook everything that the professor is saying and reading off a PowerPoint, which you already have on your computer, is you need to ask one question to the professor in front of the entire class. I used to think that only the biggest nerds would ask questions in front of the class. And you get two types of people that ask questions. You get the person that is so annoying they ask a bunch of questions that you think they're annoying because they're kind of a nerd, but also the questions that they ask are very helpful or they are completely irrelevant to the conversation that you're having. And I want to assure you that the dumber your question, the better. So if you have a dumb question because you actually don't know and you recognize and you have some sort of humility and self-awareness that you're not going to be the smartest person there, that you don't know everything in a university lecture, then you are going to come off as somebody who not only wants to learn, and you might come off as kind of dumb. And that's kind of funny and endearing. And there should be no shame in appearing dumb in a room full of the brightest kids from other high schools in a university lecture on your first day. There's nothing wrong with that. The fact that you're actually putting yourself out there, asking a question, this question might even be and most of the time this question is very valuable because a lot of people have the same question, but nobody is courageous enough to ask that question. And you probably saved a lot of other students, the heartache of just ignoring this one thing that ends up being a critical part on your final assignment that makes or breaks your GPA so that you can maybe get into med school or something like that along those lines. So don't be afraid to ask dumb questions. You must ask a question to your professor during this first lecture. Not only is asking a question important for you and putting yourself out there, but it's important for the prof. And especially if you just introduce yourself, they're gonna know your name and they're gonna point at you and they're gonna say your name. And you're gonna be building rapport. And this is an essential part to university, and that's building rapport and social skills while you're there. You're going to be talking to everybody from a lot of walks of life, mostly privileged kids that went to high schools that can afford or got student loans so that they can go to university, but you're going to learn to talk to a lot of different kind of people. And so learning how to talk to your prof and building a relationship with them, like I said earlier in the video, is going to be so important, especially for later on, not even when you're in the class, when you need reference letters, when you want a job, at least they can respect you enough and be like, oh, I know this guy enough to BS some reference letter so that they can get some job that they want. So that's another reason why you need to ask a question. So now that lecture is done, hopefully you have at least built up another couple questions. This is just the way to close out this day or this lecture, is for you to go up again to the prof at the end of the lecture. Once the lecture ends, and you would have built already a lot of rapport with your neighbor. You were just joking around, having a good time because it's outline day. You're just going to learn what's going to be on, when the finals are, when's the midterms, what are your expectations for this class. And so you would have built a good rapport. If you're in the same, program as the person that you're sitting next to, then and you have similar class or you have the next class together, I want you to tell your neighbor, just be like, hey, wait up, let's walk out of class together. Like super easygoing thing to say to continue a conversation if you had a good conversation. If you didn't, then whatever, screw it, you don't have to be there. But you can say, hey, just wait up, I just need to ask a couple questions to the prof. You go up to the prof and say, I'm super stoked and I just had a couple more questions and I'm excited to see you next class. And that's it. And there you go. You have done more in these 3 interactions with this professor than 95% of the students will do in their entire university career. Because nobody does it. And I know that because I never did it. And everybody I know never did it. There's maybe 5 kids in 200 kid classes that would ask questions. I want you to be one of them, but I want you to be also very confident and charismatic in all other aspects of your life and be well-rounded. So after you do that, you walk out of class. If your friend is still there, then you can say, hey, do you want to study sometime for this class and do really well? And maybe, and then that's it. Or maybe just go get some lunch or whatever. Super easygoing. You're not putting any expectations. You're just saying, hey, do you want to study? I don't have any friends. Swap socials, get their number, get their email. Who cares? That's that. Okay, so that is basically the recipe on how to approach every single one of your classes, the first class of this next week that's happening. So every class, I want you to do this. If you have the same class as your neighbor, the next one, you can just sit with them, sit in the front and kind of do the whole thing again. But if you don't, then you just start all over again. You go to class early, you survey who's gonna be there, see if there's anybody you wanna talk to, start a conversation. You're gonna walk into the place, into the lecture like you own it. You're gonna talk to the prof before class, introduce yourself, give your name, get their name, smile and be fun and playful, and then go back to your seat, ask a question, build rapport during the class with your new neighbor maybe that you found, or the same person, and you just build maybe a really good friendship. And then you go and ask questions again at the end of the lecture. And then you rinse and repeat for the entire first week. These steps are, I cannot emphasize how important these things are, because by doing this the first week, you're gonna make at least 4 or 5 decent friends, or at least study partners, which will help you stay accountable and get you good grades, but also you will build relationships with your professors. And I think that is the biggest regret I had in university, is not building relationships with my professors, because they will save your ass if you know them, if they know you, and they feel like you're interested. Because these professors love when kids are interested in the stuff that they've been studying their entire lives about. Just like when somebody talks about something that you like, for me it'd be like Lord of the Rings or something like that. And if somebody just wanted to start talking about that, you got me, you have my heart. And that's how professors feel when you talk about biochemistry, or something, psychology or sociology, in a really interested way. And so you will be light years ahead of everybody for basically your entire university career if you follow these steps for this first week. So this video is about your first week of classes and how to go into every class and build about 5 to 10 really good relationships with the most important people. Somebody you can study with in class, somebody that's interesting, whatever, those are that, but also the professors. And putting a name to the face, and also showing that you are smart, confident, and an attractive young person. So it sucks, but university, and especially the first year, is meant to wean students off. And an easy way that happens is professors never learning your name, not caring if you fail or succeed, not pushing you. But when a prof that you know and knows your name, knows what you're going through, if you're going through a stressful time, a lot of things happen in university, and things can be stressful. And you might need extensions, you might need a day off, you might need some help, you might need to ask for a grade boost, which you can absolutely do if you have a good relationship with the professor. I had to make this video before you started your first week, because I wish I had this video. I wish I had this mindset that I needed to build these relationships. So I'll leave you with that, go out, stand tall, smile, and always remember to rep the set.